All right, welcome to another edition of In the Dugout. This is a special Saturday morning edition, and we're pleased to have with us a special guest who's a longtime friend of the center. I'll introduce Steve to you in just a minute, but just to set it up, this pandemic has caused economic hardship nationally and especially in this state. State lawmakers have the power to determine their own curve, whether it tracks with the national curve, whether it does better, whether it does worse. The lawmakers in this state don't want to do anything. They just want to ride the coattails of the federal government. In fact, it looks like they're going to make it worse. They want to do tax increases, which I think is the worst time. So we're going to talk about national economy, local economy with our guest. He's a former economic advisor to the Trump campaign. He's former editor of the Wall Street Journal economics editorial page. He's a now distinguished visiting fellow at the Project for Economic Growth at the prestigious Heritage Foundation. You see him regularly on cable news shows. He's a longtime friend of our center. He participated in a debate we had down at the University of Rhode Island many years ago, and he spoke at our Freedom Banquet 2 years ago in 2018. So I want to welcome virtually back to Rhode Island the great economist, Mr. Steve Moore. Steve?
Hey, Mike, it's so great to be with you. And I feel sometimes I've been to Rhode Island so many times with you. I feel like it's my home away from home, but really terrific to be with you.
Let's ask you to turn your camera back on, go to your video and select start the video because we're just hearing you right now. But good to have you as well. Now, I've got to start off by being a little critical because, as you know, we have a tradition on In the Dugout of wearing some baseball garb. So I wore for you my Washington Senator jersey and in honor of your world champion Nationals. But you don't have a cap for us today. We'll give you an excuse today. All right. We'll give you an excuse today. But I know you'd be wearing a Nationals cap.
Those Senators turned into Nationals, and the Nationals
right.
are the for now they're the World Series champions. And so anyway, it's you're probably going to think I'm a traitor, Mike, because for my whole life I was a Cubs fan.
I love the Cubbies.
This last year, I turned into a Nationals fan.
I'm so happy when they won it years ago. I love the Cubbies. Absolutely do. All right. So just to recap, Steve, in this state, we don't hear much from our point of view. And while we can talk about President Trump, I'd rather talk about President Trump's economy in terms of it's pretty basic conservative economics, isn't it? That conservative economics before the pandemic turned our nation just skyrocketed like has never been seen before. Conservatism.
Well, free market economics is the best path to prosperity, as my old buddy Larry Kudlow would say. And so we're really proud of what we did. I mean, Larry and I and Art Laffer and a few others helped put Trump's economic package together. It was a resounding success. It was more of a success than even I thought it would be. I mean, the numbers just came out from the Census Bureau not long ago, and they show that, in fact, that the poverty rate fell to its lowest level in the history of the United States in 2019, that the incomes rose to their highest levels for median households. That's not rich people. It's people right in the middle of the income scale. Their incomes went up $6,400 in 3 years. That's a gigantic increase in such a short period of time. So anyone who says that the Trump policies didn't work, we can have some disagreements about how he's handled the pandemic, but when you look at the first 3 years of spectacular economic progress, by the way, also the lowest inflation rate, the lowest interest rates, wage gains for everyone from the bottom to the top. I mean, it was about as beautiful a picture as you could get.
Now, did that translate into increased revenues to the government? You figure with more people working at higher incomes, that would mean more income taxes, even despite the tax cuts. So did the tax cut actually result in more revenue, or how did that work?
I don't know if it led to more revenue, but it certainly didn't cause the big revenue loss that people expected. And we believe that, if you continue these policies for another 2 and 3 and 5 years, that growth aspect of it, because growth compounds over time and you get a lot more revenue in. And that's why I think Joe Biden is so misguided, because Biden's talking about massive tax increases that will slow the economy, and the effects of the slower economy are going to dwarf the effects of the higher tax rates. The other thing is, we've seen now for 4 months, Mike, unbelievable recovery around the country. I know Rhode Island's been a bit of a laggard, and I hate to see that, But, in most of the country, I mean, 11 million jobs in 5 months. That's
So is
incredible.
it a V-shaped or is it what the Democrats are trying to sell us on, or the left, a K-shaped recovery? Are those at the lower income levels also sharing in this renewal?
Yeah, just look at where the jobs are coming from. Those 11 million jobs, we've seen huge increases in manufacturing, massive increases in construction. I mean, my goodness, the reason there's a little background, noise here where I am that you might be hearing is because we have construction crew working on our home. And, it's hard to get construction workers now. I mean, you go to construction sites around the country and you see help wanted signs. So it's really helped blue collar America. Trump
So you
really
disavow that K-shaped theory?
it's just that's all the left always says. Oh, you're just helping rich people. No, this is a rising. What did John F. Kennedy say? What did Ronald Reagan say? What does Donald Trump
Rising
say?
tide lifts all
Rising
boats.
tide lifts all boats. Yeah, you got it exactly right. And if we have a recession, God forbid that if we see, say, a Joe Biden presidency with these tax increases and the war on American energy, and we get a deep recession, which I think we would, the people who are going to be, who do you think might gets hurt the most in a recession?
Well,
Poor
you
people.
think about not just the 4 trillion in taxes, but what's the cost of the Green New Deal, of all the increased energy prices and the new mandates for your homes and cars and washing machines and refrigerators? I mean, there's a economic price there too, isn't there?
That's a great point. The states that have these Green New Deals already in place with renewable energy requirements and phasing out oil and gas. And by the way, just as an aside, why in the world would we stop using natural gas? I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever. Natural gas is not only cheap, it's efficient, it's made in America. We have a huge abundance of natural gas, more of it than any other country in the world, even Saudi Arabia and Russia. Why in the world would we stop using it? It's clean burning, Mike. It actually, using natural gas is good for the environment. So that's nuttiness. I mean, even if you're, very, very strong environmentalist who puts environmental growth ahead of economic growth, you would want to use natural gas unless we don't want to use any electricity at all. So I feel that that's a really bad idea, and I think that especially in states like Pennsylvania and states like Ohio and states like Texas and states like Oklahoma and North Dakota, you're going to really kill the economies of those states
Yep.
if you stop using fracking, which is
And we
something
all know that the promise of Green New Deal jobs comes nowhere close to offsetting the loss of
exactly.
everyday
But
jobs
it's
because
not
of
even
those higher costs. Yeah.
it's not even an issue. I mean, you're right that you're going to cost the economy maybe 5 million jobs if you wipe out the oil and gas industry as he wants to do. But also, it's going to make, as you just said so well, it's going to make the cost of electric power more expensive, and utility bills will rise for everyone. And again, who gets hurt the most by that? Low
Yeah.
income people.
Regressive, sure. All right, earlier, the end of last month, you wrote an interesting opinion piece here. No, the United States is not systematically racist, and this probably goes to that K-shaped discussion we just had. What was your point here you were trying to make? You're an economist, so I assume you were making an economic point here.
I was making an economic point. Is there racism in America? Yes. Is there discrimination? Yes. Is there less discrimination now than 50 years ago? Of course. We're not becoming more racist. We're less racist today than any time in the history of the United States. I mean, look at the amazing economic progress that minorities have made in this country, and the additional opportunities. I mean, my goodness, for 8 years, we had a black president, for goodness sake. So the fact is that what I did was I looked at this new Census Bureau data that just came out a couple of weeks ago, and what I found was that the line by Black Lives Matter and other liberals is if you have red skin or you have black skin or you have brown skin, if you're not white, you're discriminated against. So I said, okay, well, let's look at what happened. First of all, do you know what ethnic group, Mike, has by far the highest income in America today?
Asian?
Asians, yeah. Asians have a substantially higher per capita income than whites do.
Really? Oh, yeah.
The average the average income of an Asian family is $98,500 right now. Think about that.
And I would guess people from the country of India are up there pretty high too.
Pardon me?
And I would guess that the immigrants from the country of India are high up there as
Oh,
well.
Indians. So it's Indians, it's Japanese Americans, it's Filipino Americans, it's Korean Americans. So wait a minute, how can we be a racist country if brown-skinned Asians are doing so well? But blacks have made improvement. Hispanics, the average income of an Hispanic household now is above $50,000. And think about the countries that they've come from, where the average income is probably less than $15,000. Now the average income for Hispanics is I think somewhere between $50,000 and $55,000 a year. So I just reject this idea that systemic racism is somehow holding back minorities when we're seeing really great progress. And for blacks, the Black Americans made more progress in 3 years under Trump than in their 8 years under Obama.
So, we have race discussions. We have a minority advocate who we have good, honest conversations with. He's from the left. We're from, and it's really good. And one thing he said to me really stuck out. He said, listen, it doesn't, because I believe, and I think, and it's actually the definition, that racism is when there's an intent, right? When there's the one race is superior, inferior, and you design something to specifically impact. But he takes it beyond that, and he believes that if the unintended result of a policy discriminates, again, accidentally against one race, then that policy is racist. Now, I reject that, but what you're saying, the inverse is true. So if free market economic policies are benefiting minority and people of color more, then that proves, even according to their own theory, that can't be systematically racist.
Yeah, and by the way, the Walter Williams, who's the great
Yes,
economist,
great.
one of my favorite
Awesome.
economists of all time, a great guy, played basketball, by the way. I think he's taller than you, Mike. You're what, six? How tall are you? About 6'3"?
I'm only 6'1". At
6'1".
my peak, I was 6'1". I
Well,
weigh.
Walter,
I'm big. I'm getting bigger sideways, Steve.
Walter is about 6'6", 6'7",
Is he? Is he?
and
Okay.
he played basketball. You're not going to believe it. He played basketball in the playgrounds in Philadelphia with Wilt Chamberlain. And so Wilt was a little taller than he was, but the point is that Walter has become, obviously one of the great economists in the country.
Right.
Although I think he's partially retired now because he's up there in age, a little long in the tooth. But Walter wrote a book about how liberal policies are discriminating against Black Americans. Think about the minimum wage. Think about occupational licensing, that are things that are keeping Blacks out of their opportunity zones. And so I think that you could make a strong case that liberals may be well-meaning. They are well-meaning, but their policies often hurt the people that they want to help the most. I mean, look at the rioting that happened in our cities. Who do you think, Mike, was the biggest victim of the riots in New York and Minneapolis?
The Black residents and business owners. Yeah.
Well, and the immigrant businesses. Yeah. So there are. I think good intentions is not good enough. You need good results, and Trump provided the results. And he wants another one, Mike, that's dear to my heart. And I know I've talked to the president about it. He loves this plan. How about giving every single minority low income parent a $10,000 voucher so they can send their kid to a good school?
There you go. Well,
that would help Black Americans more than anything.
Yeah, when we had our city of Providence, one of 3 cities where the mayor's trying to start us down a reparations track. And I wrote just a commentary in response to a news article. I said, listen, instead of reparations, how about we give every minority family school?
I love it, Mike. That's a great idea. Same thing with Social Security, private accounts. You want to put massive amounts of money into the bank accounts of Black Americans. Do Social Security accounts. That would have a much bigger impact on the economic opportunities and the wealth creation of Black Americans than giving every.
You're getting like Milton Friedman, an economist turned school choice advocate. Anyway, so all right, let's segue to Rhode Island. I know we don't want to keep you too long here, so let's segue to Rhode Island by talking first generally about states. Our state is hoping and praying for federal bailout of federal money to cover budget. How will that? I mean, it's got to be a temporary boost to the local economy, but in the long term, it's going to perpetuate these spending problems that our states have. How do you, as an economist, look at this potential bailout of state and local government?
Well, I'm against it, totally against it for a couple of reasons. One is, we have there's two economies right now in America. There's red state America, which is booming, and blue state America, which locked down their businesses and shut down their job
Is it
opportunities.
really that? You can see the difference state by state?
Oh, it's dramatic. So nine out
Oh,
of
I've
the
never
10
seen that. I'd like to see that.
Oh yeah, I have a book coming out called The Blue State Dystopia, and it's showing that the 9 of the 10 states with the highest unemployment rate, including unfortunately Rhode Island, are in blue states. By the way, 9 of the 10 states with the lowest unemployment rates are red states: Utah and Idaho and Georgia and Tennessee and Texas and Florida and so on. And so there's just a wide gap in the red states have low taxes, blue states have high taxes. You're a forced union state, right to work states are doing much better. And all of this is showing that we have a gap in the United States, and we want to make America more economically free and open up our economy, which is what Rhode Island should be doing. And they should have never locked down the economy. The lockdowns had zero effect. In fact, the states that had the severest lockdowns also had the highest death rate. So there's zero evidence that lockdowns actually, had any impact except a negative.
Medically, right.
So yeah, this is a big deal, and Rhode Island needs to get your businesses open. Schools, Mike, are your schools open in Rhode Island?
Not really.
Well, that's outrageous. I mean,
Some hybrids, no.
Yeah, this is outrageous. This is the biggest incidence of national child abuse in the history of this country. Their children are at virtually zero risk from coronavirus, almost close to zero. It's like 0.0001%. Your child is more likely to die, from a stroke of lightning or, die in the bus going over to school than being in school. And this is really negative for our kids. We have a 13 and 14-year-old. They haven't been able to go to school now for almost a year. This is just, it's really disturbing to me. And I think everyone, whether you're liberal, conservative, agrees schools should be open. And I also think if parents don't want to send their kids to school, if they don't think it's safe, I believe in parental rights. Parents should have
the choice.
Choice, yes, that's what we're about. Choice.
Free market choice, free educational choice. I love it. Yes. All right. So believe it or not, in our state, they're talking now about massive new taxes, massive new debt and bonds I mean, the tone deaf of the liberal left in our state. They're even talking, we need green new projects, more affordable housing, raise taxes to plug budget gaps. So we put up a website, raise sales, not taxes. You can see from our
I like it.
Logo
like
here. The boat is our corporate symbol on the Ocean State.
Well, let me see that little cartoon. Yeah, there. What does that say? Raise the one. Just
raise sales, not taxes.
Scroll that down. I can't see it on my screen right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Leaving Rhode Island. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem is that you're seeing, right now, as we speak, Florida is gaining $1,200 new people a day. Texas is gaining 800 people a day. Tennessee is gaining 500 people a day. And where are they coming from? New York,
states like ours,
Rhode Island. And,
Illinois.
Get a game, be competitive. We talked about baseball. You want to win a game, you got to be competitive. You got to get the best players. Rhode Island, it's like you're selling off all your best players.
Well, that's because we're chasing them away. Like you said, the minimum wage. The governor just put in a budget item that she wants to restrict losses. You can't deduct your losses, at least up to a certain limit only. Just punishing businesses. The Obamacare health insurance premiums are going up another 10 or 12% in this state. And now they want to hit us all with tax hikes. I mean, what is your message to Rhode Island lawmakers who want to preserve their precious state budget instead of family and business budgets?
Well, I made a very controversial statement about 20 years ago in your great state of Rhode Island, where I said, your lawmakers there in Providence are members of the Flat Earth Society, because they seem to act as if, high taxes and high regulation and, big debt spending isn't going to hurt the economy. And that's just, the liberals love to talk about science. I mean, the science is very clear about that.
Economics is science, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's not exactly, but we do know that incentives matter. I mean, this is what, economics is all about. And if you incentivize businesses to flourish and to start up and to make a profit, they will. And if
Right.
you tax them and regulate them and have all of these dictates, you're going to have a lot of business go bankrupt. You look, Rhode Island, you're going to have a situation where the major employers are just going to be utilities, hospitals, universities. But where's the private sector growth? Where are the small businesses in Rhode Island? Those are the people get hurt by these policies.
Thank you. All right, final question, Steve. You've got a new initiative out that I'd like you to talk about. It's called the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. I've been getting issue number 130 here, came in my
Yeah.
inbox earlier this week. This is what, tell us about the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, how people can sign up for it.
Well, I mean, this is, people call us the supply side Beatles because it's, how's this for a lineup? It was Arthur Laffer, Steve Forbes, Larry Kudlow, and Steve Moore. And I used to laugh that, yeah, we're the Beatles. I'm Ringo. I bang the drums and they make the music. But Larry left us. He deserted us for the White House. But the whole idea is to promote, sound economic policies. And I want to recommend to everyone that they get our daily hotline, which is just, you can read it in 5 minutes. Newt Gingrich said the other day, it's the first thing he wants to read every morning because it's fun to read too. It's, we have some cartoons and other things, but mainly it's just making points about how we get our economy going and how do we make sure that we're not, ruining our economy with bad policies. And so, people, if you want to sign up for it, folks, just go to Committee to Unleash Prosperity website and just click a button. And by the way,
Yeah, look,
Mike,
there you are.
you know what it costs?
I'm going to guess Zippo.
It's free. So some things in life are free. It doesn't cost you a dime, folks. So I think you might have fun. And a lot of my friends say this is great. I use this stuff as arguments when I debate some of my liberal friends. But even if you're a liberal out there and you want to just be open-minded about what's going on, you should read the hotline and also, Mike, when you've got stories, send me your little cartoon on leaving Rhode Island and stuff like that. We want to get that stuff out to people
Oh,
around.
okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
you do a
Well,
great job. I mean, I would say that you're an island of sanity and a sea of, statism there in Rhode Island. And thank God for the Freedom and Prosperity group that you run there in Rhode Island, because I know you're often outnumbered and
yes.
outdone, but you win the arguments. Sometimes winning the argument isn't enough.
We got a big fight to try to held off these. I mean, debt is just as bad, right? Debt would be almost as harmful. Massive debt um, as taxes, wouldn't it? It's just another form of taxation.
Wait, they want to raise taxes again, or?
Well, they're talking about either raising taxes or putting a bond referendum out for, in our state, maybe $1 billion to
Yeah, a
plug
bond just
budget
means
holes.
you're going to pay the taxes later, right?
That's right. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
That's all. So,
Well, keep
Steve
fighting, my
Moore.
friend. I mean, I think we're going to see people are going to be surprised. I think what happens in November. I think there's going to be a real backlash against, the lockdowns, against the rioting, against the breakdown of law and order, and against the higher taxes and regulation. So I think people are going to be really surprised that Americans, we're not socialists. We don't have it in our DNA.
I don't think so.
We believe in the two things you stand for: freedom and
That's
prosperity.
right. That's right. One leads to the other. We need the freedom, not more mandates and taxes. Steve Moore, you are a great friend to the free market movement and to our center. And thank you so much for joining us on this special edition Saturday morning. We wish you good luck with your new project.
My pleasure, and keep fighting, my friend, and we're going to win. Take care.
Thank you, Steve, very much. For in the Dugout in the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity, this is Mike Stenhouse wishing you a very happy, free, and prosperous weekend. Good day.